Apartment hunting in New York City, arguably one of the most popular subjects on YouTube when it comes to vlogging, and is one of the most difficult and complex housing markets in the world. Finding somewhere to live in NYC can feel nearly impossible, and sometimes it is. I have lived in 5 apartments in Manhattan since 2019, and I am currently on the hunt for lucky number 6. Some places I've lived in have been nice, others not so nice. I am living the true New York experience, and my apartment is getting fumigated. But since I started my YouTube journey, I tried my best to document these moves, and this time is no different. I'm on a mission to find my dream apartment. My actual dream apartment definitely costs at least $7 million, so my dream apartment in my current tax bracket. Let's get into it. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I have put a lot of pressure on this move. Like I just said, I have moved 5 times to 5 different apartments since September of 2019. So I am no stranger to moving in New York City, but now I'm desperate for this next move to really work out because I'm tired. I am sick and I'm tired of moving. I've moved so frequently. I feel like I know a lot about the ins and the outs of moving in New York City and the complexities of how to go about it. Moving within the city is fast-paced, it's stressful, it's expensive, and it's almost like a secret. You can't fully understand how crazy it is until you're fully in the thick of it. So I'm gonna try my best to share my experience and tell you a little bit about the process today, but let's hope this is lucky move number 6. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name's Alexis, I'm 27. I currently live in Manhattan, and I really have only ever moved in Manhattan. I did live on Staten Island for 4 years, but that was in college. And so after I left Staten Island, I moved into Manhattan. I've been living here for 6 years, and unfortunately, 6 of those years have been spent across 5 different apartments. It's an inside joke with my friends at this point that I just move for fun because I feel like every few months I'm moving. And especially in the last 2 years, I have moved a lot due to some really weird circumstances going on. So I'm finally ready to settle down with my apartment, which is kind of where the pressure is coming from because this next move, I don't want to move again for years and years and years and years. So throughout this apartment hunting process, I had a lot of criteria I needed to meet and a lot of boxes I needed checked. So why am I moving? Well, that is a long story, and a few days ago I posted a video kind of explaining the entire reason why I'm moving again because I most recently moved 8 months ago. It's not even been a full year, and there's been a lot of different circumstances and things going on, but we've somehow ended here with me moving into my own apartment yet again after 2 years of living with roommates. This apartment I'm sitting in right now, I'm actively moving out of. I lived here for 8 months with my roommate Emily, and then the apartment I had before that was a 3-bedroom with 2 roommates. It was my roommate Emily and then our other roommate Zach. So since the end of 2023, I've been living with roommates, and before 2023, I was living alone in a studio. And before that, I was living with 3 roommates. So I've experienced a lot of different living situations in a lot of different neighborhoods and places and with different people over the past 5 years. And I feel like I kind of finally know what I want in an apartment, especially in the city. So having all these experiences has been a lot because yes, I've had to move a lot. It's been expensive, it's been stressful. But the silver lining to all of this is that I've been able to kind of learn what I like and what I don't like in an apartment, which I guess is a nice way to look at it. But now that I know what I like and I know what I don't like, the difficult part is actually finding an apartment that matches up with all this criteria. My roommate Emily moved out 25 days before I'm supposed to, so she's been gone for a while. I'm in her empty room right now, it's very echoey. I thought about all my previous moves, everywhere I've lived in the past, what I like, what I don't like I was just saying, and I came up with a list of criteria of what I want to find in my next apartment. Number 1 criteria, a good landlord. If you've been following along with my journey in this apartment, I've had the worst landlord I've ever had, and arguably one of the worst landlords in the entire city. And it was something that I wish I did a little more research before moving into this apartment because I had no idea how infamous this guy was for being the worst. You know, in the past, I've had some building owners and landlords who maybe weren't the nicest, but they always made sure that my basic living requirements were met, and I can't say the same about this place. So having a good landlord has jumped to the top of my list, and that has never been on my list before when looking for an apartment. Honestly, it's still a little bit hit or miss if you find a good landlord because it's kind of hard to find a judge of character unless you talk to someone who's lived in the building before or the real estate agent who's listing the building tells you the truth about them. But this has become something that I decided to ask at every single apartment I looked at. My second requirement is good natural light. I've lived in apartments facing literally every direction, north, south, east, west, all of them. The best lighting in the city is south facing because you get light most of the day. I will say north facing is my least favorite way because you never get any direct sunlight unless like the sun happens to peek through first thing in the morning. Currently in the apartment I'm in right now, my windows are east facing, so I get the sunrise in the morning, which I actually really like. These windows in Emily's room are west facing, but she faces a courtyard. I don't think the light is like extremely bright. Right now it's the middle of the afternoon and like the lighting is pretty okay in here. But with the nature of my job, which is YouTube, I want to make sure I have nice natural lighting for my vlogs and for my videos. And I feel like the last few years, the lighting has been fine in my apartments, but honestly, I'm not too picky about it. As long as some sort of sunlight's coming in, I'm okay. So I'm really just trying to stray away from like not facing a brick wall, not being on the ground level. Oh, what are you looking at? Next thing I'm looking for is space. I have 2 cats, one is still a kitten, and I want them to have an ample amount of space to run and play. Honestly, moving into a studio is something that I was considering, but not ideal, especially my cat Bennett. The last 2 apartments he's lived in, he's had a long hallway to run down, and now that Olive is here too, I just want to have enough space for both my cats. I want to take them into consideration. They're used to having long hallways, so that was just something in the back of my mind. I was like, ideally, if I can find an apartment with some sort of a hallway that they can run down because they love to chase each other, that's great. And then also, over the past few years, I've acquired a handful of things. I have a lot of furniture since living in my studio because I lived in these big apartments with roommates, and I just happened to own most of the furniture. Moving back into a studio feels a little unrealistic just because I have so many pieces of furniture now that I like and I don't really want to give up if I don't have to. So I just want to make sure I have enough room. Next criteria, I want it to be quiet. I have actually always faced the street. Every apartment I've lived in, I've never faced like a back alley or garden. Part of me always kind of wanted to face the street just because I like to see what's going on outside. I like to know what's going on. And sometimes like facing the back to me feels like, oh, I'm not gonna have that much natural light, which is not the case at all. This is the first apartment I've lived in that some windows have faced the back. My room currently faces the front, but there's actually a nice amount of natural light and it's really quiet back here. And especially because I'm filming all day, I found myself constantly having to stop or edit my audio all the time to make sure that you couldn't hear any of those sounds. So in this search, I was like, you know what? I don't think facing the back would be the worst thing in the world, or just finding a quiet street. I know I keep switching angles, but I'm on the run from my cats. They keep following the camera everywhere. Another thing on my list that I want is a dishwasher. This is one of my like flexible things. It's not a non-negotiable, but I didn't have a dishwasher in my studio. Which was fine because it was just me. Then I had a dishwasher in my last apartment. In this apartment, we did have a dishwasher, but it didn't work that well. We never were able to get it fixed. I tried to, but I kind of gave up because there were a lot of other issues going on in the building that were more pressing, like a broken buzzer, no hot water, broken lock, you know, things like that. So it didn't feel pressing to get the dishwasher fixed. But I would love to have a working dishwasher. I feel like that would be really nice. A really nice addition to my home. Another thing on my list, I want some charm. I want like a little charm to the apartment, whether it's like exposed brick, crown molding, nice parquet floor. One of my apartments in Washington Heights and my studio that I lived in both had a lot of like New York City charm. And my last 2 apartments kind of did not, but not even in a good way. Like, it's not like they were these nice new renovated buildings. It was more so, they were still old buildings, but they just weren't charming. Like, there's no crown molding in here, there's no brick. So that's something that like I would like to find again, because I think I do prefer like the older New York City charm over like a brand new renovated apartment. Look how cute they look. They love looking out this window. My last 2 things are location. I have a very specific like area and type of apartment location-wise that I want to live in, that I'm not really gonna give as many details on just for privacy reasons. And then the last one, I would love laundry in the building, but I know that is a big ask. Laundry in the unit for the prices I'm looking for, out of the question. But laundry in the building, I'm feeling hopeful. So that's my criteria. Now the next step is, how do I find an apartment that actually meets this criteria? The most popular way? Get out your laptop and head to the website StreetEasy, because that is the top way Pretty much anyone I know finds apartments in New York City. I have a love-hate relationship with StreetEasy. It's introduced me to some amazing apartments, and it also has been my greatest source of sadness every time I'm looking for an apartment. The thing about StreetEasy is there's some great listings on there, but if you're seeing them, everyone else is seeing them too. So seeing an apartment that's listed on StreetEasy can be a bit of a battle, especially if it's a really good unit, because odds are you're going to be fighting a million other people who are also trying to get that unit. That being said, there's other websites you can look on, like I think you can look on apartments.com maybe, and like on websites of actual real estate companies, things like that. If you're brave enough to try like Craigslist, I've heard of some people finding their amazing rent stabilized apartments on Craigslist, but I don't think I'm that brave. A lot of the apartments that I saw were through StreetEasy. I really like the map feature because you can kind of set your parameters, look at a map, and kind of see where every apartment is, especially if you're looking for a specific location. Then the next option is obviously through a real estate agent. So my first ever apartment in the city I subletted, but then my second apartment, which was the first one I signed my lease on, I used a real estate agent. I went through Bohemia Realty. And then on my studio search, I also used a real estate agent. I don't remember who it was through, but ultimately they didn't end up helping me find my studio. I found it myself. It's kind of hit or miss. The good part of having a real estate agent is you can see a lot of apartments that you might not have access to online, like they might not be listed on StreetEasy. For this search, I didn't use a real estate agent at all. I don't really know why. I guess I could have. Honestly, kind of slipped my mind until I made this video. The secret third option. Okay, it's actually not that big of a secret. And this is a good option to do if you want a specific area you want to live in, if you want a specific building you want to live in. Just reach out to the building or the real estate agent that lists units for the building yourself. So there were a few buildings that I was interested in that I either had friends that had lived there or I had recommendations. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go on. I looked up the building, found the listing agent for the building, and I texted the listing agent and was like, hey, I'm looking for an apartment. This is when I'm gonna move. Do you have anything opening up? I will say this works a little bit better if you have a big time frame of when you're moving. So like, for example, I kind of knew I was moving 2 months before this all actually happened. So I was able to be like, hey, do you have anything? And I just kind of had these contacts of people that could let me know, hey, a unit's opening up in a month or in 2 weeks. And that is a way that you can kind of cheat the system, live exactly where you want, and hear about listings before they're even posted. So you are ideally one of the first people to apply to it or see it. There is a function on StreetEasy where you can view like unavailable listings. I do that all the time. I kind of like look at all the listings in a building. I see, oh, is this lease going to end around the time that I'm going to want to move in? I should reach out and just like keep an eye on it. It feels like a life hack, and honestly, it's like my preferred way of doing things now, I think. You can just have so much more specificity in your search, and you can avoid like battling a ton of other people to see a unit. Apartment hunting is really all about a give and take. Like you have to decide what's your non-negotiable and what are you willing to be a little bit flexible on. Like for me, for this apartment, my non-negotiable was location. I didn't want to be on a ground floor apartment because I don't like the lighting. For safety reasons, I don't want to be on a ground floor, especially facing the street on the ground floor. I hate the idea of that. So that was a big non-negotiable for me. And in this search, I don't know if it's the time of year, I don't know what it is, but the amount of apartments that were on the ground floor facing the street that were available was insane. Like I just said, things that I could be a little more flexible on, not having a dishwasher, not having laundry in the building. I've learned how to live with both of those things before. I can do it again. I have lived in so many different places with so many different things. I've lived in a giant building that has over 100 units. I've lived in a brownstone. I've lived in just a simple walk-up. I've lived in so many different kinds of buildings. Never a luxury building. We'll get there one day. That now it's like, I kind of know the ins and outs of the like pros and cons of each kind of place that you live in. So like I said, it's great that I know all the things that I like and I don't like now, but it's also not good because I'm a lot more pickier now because I like know too much. I know too much about apartments that it's hard for me to find the right one because I have dealt with so many different kinds. All right, pricing. The apartments that I have been looking at have been studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms. And all of these have varied from $2,500 a month to $3,500 a month. Big difference in price, but also big difference in the apartments that I'm looking at. Pretty much everything in the city is gonna be extremely expensive. So the biggest trick for finding like a good price is to find the best bang for your buck. It's crazy because I will see a studio listed for $3,200 and then I'll see a 2-bedroom listed for $3,200. Wildly different kinds of apartments in the same area. And so then you really have to weigh the pros and cons of like what's more worth it. Like I looked at a 1-bedroom apartment, it was $3,000, but the bedroom was scary. I still am trying to make sense of what was going on in there. And I convinced myself for like a day that I could live there. I'm not sure if that was the place for me. But then it's like you finally find a great apartment that is a reasonable price. It's a 1-bedroom, but it's $2,700, and you are fighting 100 people who are also trying to look at that apartment and get it, and you don't get it because so many people want it. I've also learned that if an apartment is a really good price and they're willing to negotiate that price and no one has gotten it and it's been listed on Street Easy for like a week, you might not want that apartment. I will be so honest. In my last 2 apartments, they had been listed on Street Easy for like over a week. They negotiated the price down over $200 or $300 for both of them. And both apartments ended up being not really worth the money. So just something that I'm a little cautious of now. I'm like, if they're really easy to be like flexible on the price and there's no one else fighting you for it, like trying to pay that full price, maybe it's not all it's cracked up to be. A harsh reality that I've had to deal with in this move is I'm moving in the spring, entering summer. Up until now, every move I've done has been in the fall or the winter. It's usually been between October and February. And so the prices are always a little bit better because times are a little bleaker, and it's when the city isn't necessarily as crowded. Like, people aren't trying to move to the city in January, but a lot of people are trying to move to the city in summer for work, for internships, life, because they just graduated college. And then that housing market is pretty bad through September when people are actually coming back to the city after summer, coming back to the city for school, especially if you're looking for like a studio or a 1-bedroom. That's something that also like students or people who are brand new to the city are also going to find desirable. So pricing hasn't been the greatest, and I have been having to make a lot of decisions. Do I want to pay more for a better location? Do I want to pay less but not in my ideal neighborhood I want to live in? There's a lot of things that are going into pricing. I will say in this hunt, pricing has been definitely higher than it's been in the past. Also, New York is passing a law where broker's fees are getting banned, which sounds like a good thing. Broker's fees can be up to 15%. And you have to pay it to the broker, and the fees are kind of out of control because sometimes these fees can be up to like $7,000 and you get nothing out of it. It's just a fee you have to pay. So they're banning it, but I have a theory though that rent prices are going to skyrocket even higher after they ban these fees in a month, because it's not like the fees just disappear. I think it's now the building has to pay the broker that fee. So they're going to supplement that by increasing their rent prices. And I kind of feel like I'm looking at a really bad time right now where they're already starting to jack up these prices to account for that, but I'm probably still gonna have to pay a broker's fee. So kind of a lose-lose here. So if you thought this video was going to end with me telling you what apartment I chose and where I'm moving, I am so sorry. You are sadly mistaken, because I still don't know. That's the fun and joy of moving in New York City. You might think you know where you're moving, and at the last minute, you don't. At this moment in time, I am like 90% sure where I'm moving. Also, I need to be out of my apartment in 5 days, so that's really exciting too. But I still haven't signed a lease, so I don't want to end this video saying this is where I'm moving, because it might not be the case. I think it is. I'm really hoping it is. And if I do end up signing the lease and moving into the place I think I'm moving into, I've met a lot of my criteria. But if I don't, well, good luck to me. Like, the fact I haven't signed a lease, I could literally find somewhere tomorrow that has an immediate move-in date and move in there instead. You just don't know. This has probably been one of my more stressful apartment hunting processes. Looking for my studio a few years ago was pretty stressful. I think I looked at like 15 or 16 different apartments. This search, I really only looked at like 8 or 9. I was under the impression I knew what apartment I was going to get like a month ago, maybe even more than a month ago. So I was only loosely searching because in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, I have this apartment that I'm going to be getting, but it's taken a very long time to finalize that process. I'm trying to trust this process because a lot of the time, the best apartments you find in New York are the ones you find a little unconventionally. Like my studio I lived in, for example, I requested a tour of an apartment on Street Easy that was immediately rented, and the real estate agent was like, hey, there's a different unit in the building if you're interested, but it needs to be completely renovated. I went to go look at it. It was a disaster. It was like the most ugly, horrible, gross, disgusting apartment I'd ever seen. And they were like, don't worry, in a month it's going to be completely gut renovated and brand new, but like you just have to go off of our word and sign the lease. So I took that chance. I signed the lease and I showed up and the apartment was exactly what they promised. Now, do I recommend to always do that? No. Do your research. But it worked out for me. So I'm hoping in this next situation it works out for me. And if it does, this is going to be a very exciting moving series because this apartment is really good, you guys. It's really, really good. So that's my 2 cents on apartment hunting. In my last 2 moving series, I didn't really touch on apartment hunting. I didn't really show anywhere I was looking at. And this time around, I thought maybe I should talk about it a little bit. I'm optimistic, but I think we just have to wait and see what happens. So thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel, give this video a thumbs up, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye.